Okaeri! Welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're doing my 200 subscriber Q&A part 2. Am I wearing the exact same clothes and in the exact same spot as part 1? Yes, ma'am. So as I introduced in part 1, I wanted to do something a little unique with this. A lot of people have expressed interest in the fact that I live in Japan, so I thought I could do a little twist on this Q&A. I had my boyfriend Hayato go get me 6 snacks that I have never tried before. I don't know if you know this about Japan, but they're quite famous for having just weird flavored shit, basically. And even though I've lived here for a while, there's no way that I have tried everything. So I asked my boyfriend to go get me 6 things I have definitely never tried before. Now he knows what I like and what I don't like. So in the previous video, you'll see, I'll link it above. I'll do a card up above, but he sabotaged me and got 2 snacks that he knew I would hate. That are umeboshi flavored or pickled plum flavored. It's one of my least favorite flavors in the whole wide world. Oh. No! Oh no! Oh, I hate it. I hate it. Hopefully we're moving on from that because I have 3 more snacks that I'm gonna try in this Q&A. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, and hopefully this video can help you get to know me a little better and hopefully let me get to know you a little better. Last time we stopped at question 13, so question 14, 15, 16 are all from Benedict over at Fantasy Fiction. So question 14 is, how old were you when you moved to Japan and how long have you lived there? This is a good question. So I was 17 I think, when I first came here in high school to study abroad. So I didn't permanently live here at the time, but I did study abroad here then. But actually permanently living here, I came over here when I was 23. Yes, when I was 23. I've lived in Japan now for about 4.5 to 5 years. It's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact date, but I think it's about 4.5 to 5. I live in Fukuoka, Japan. So I live on the southernmost island of Kyushu. I don't live anywhere near Tokyo, so it's a bit of a different culture down here. But this is where I have lived the entire time that I've been in Japan. Question 15 is, how have you found the Booktube community? So I'm not sure if this question is, how did I find it in the first place, or how has my experience been? So I'll just answer both quickly. I found Booktube maybe 3 years ago, and I was just in my apartment. I don't remember what I had read, but I wanted to know other people's opinions on a book. And so I just Googled book review, and a video popped up on YouTube, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know there were like spoken reviews on YouTube. And then I just went down the Booktube rabbit hole, and I was like, how long have I been missing out on this? This is everything that I need in my life. So that's how I found out about it. How have I found the Booktube community so far since I've been a part of it? Wonderful. I've made some amazing friends on here. I love you all to death. And I really, really love being able to talk to people, like I said in my previous video, but that just get it. You just get books, you know? If I want to buy a really nice version of a book with sprayed edges, even though it's like $15 more, you guys get it because you get books. And that just means the world to me. I've heard a lot of people talk about like Booktube drama and stuff that makes Booktube less enjoyable. It might just be because I'm still teeny tiny, like a really small channel, but I haven't experienced almost any of that since I've been on Booktube. So granted, it's only been about a month and a half, but I haven't seen any of those negative aspects of it at all. Not saying they don't exist, I just haven't encountered them yet. Number 16 is, what's your diet like? Are you vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, or none of those? So I am none of those. Of course, I respect people for whatever dietary choices that you make, but I love meat. Even if I did want to try going vegetarian or vegan, Japan is not the place to do that. A lot of their foods have a base called dashi, which is made from fish. So I guess you could be pescatarian somewhat easily here, even though a lot of restaurants where you eat out, like yakitori or yakiniku, are meat-based specifically, you could get vegetable options in that case. So I guess pescatarian would be doable in this country, but it's not really the place to start a new diet if you're not really good at cooking yourself. And I'm not the best at cooking with Japanese ingredients. So I have no dietary restrictions except for this bullshit. Number 17 and 18 are from Sophia from Spew Deserves Better. The first question she asked is, what's one thing you wished you knew before starting Booktube? This is a really good question. I would say I wish I knew that it was okay to keep mistakes in your videos. For my first couple videos, I was really uptight with retaking things if it wasn't 100% perfect. But that's not necessarily my style of life. So I've kind of learned that it's okay to not be perfect, and actually a lot of people who watch your videos are more connected to you if you're not perfect. They're like, yeah, I get that. That shit happens to me too, you know? So while I certainly haven't perfected my video style, I wish that I was able to tell myself when I was starting, it's okay if things are not 100% in line. Question number 18 is one that I answered in part 1, but since this is part 2, I'll answer it again. And that is, how did you learn to speak Japanese? So I learned to speak Japanese from many different sources. I studied Japanese in high school. I was very lucky to have that available to me. And then I studied abroad in Japan in high school for a little over a half a year. And then when I went to university, forgot everything that I knew, basically, and I didn't study Japanese, didn't touch it for about 4 or 5 years, and then I decided it was time to come back. So this time around, since I've come back, it's been a mixture of a lot of things. A lot of it has been immersion, though. I am a language nerd. I love the feeling of speaking Japanese and the sound of the language. So I've done a lot of immersion by hanging out with friends. But I do take Japanese tests here called the JLPT. And I have a big one that was supposed to be coming up this year, but who knows with the Rona, what's going to happen with that. I still want to take the test if it's available to me. And in order to prepare for those, I have a private tutor, and then I buy my own textbooks and work with that private tutor. So it's kind of a mixture of a bunch of different things, I would say. But the main thing is there really is no substitute for using the language, having the language come out of your mouth and listen to it come out of someone else's mouth. So my recommendation if you want to start is to link up with an online tutor or an online class, be it a free one or a cheap one or whatever you can get your hands on, because that is going to be your key. The next 2 questions are from Locked Booktician. The first one is, how many books have you read in your life? Girl! I don't fucking know. I started using Goodreads maybe when I discovered Booktube about, so maybe 3 years ago. Let's see what Goodreads says. You guys hear that crying? Someone fell off their bicycle, I think. Ouch. Mommy found her, she's aight. Yeesh. So, Goodreads says I have read... Sorry if you hear crying in the background. That little girl's not happy, but who would be when you scrape your knee? Goodreads says that I have read 263 books, which is just, not the total number. I've been reading since I was teeny tiny, so going off of that number, I'd have to say I read at least 500, 600 books in my lifetime, maybe more than that. Especially, no, way more than that, because I read a lot of books for school, even in university. I'm gonna go anywhere from 800 to 1,000. Because I was an avid reader when I was a child. And I did tons of reading for school, so I'm gonna have to go with somewhere around 800 to 1,000 books in my lifetime. But we all know that's just a guess. Her second question was, what is the inspiration behind your channel name? And this is a really good question, actually. So my Booktube channel name is Made Between the Pages, but Made is spelled differently because my middle name is May, and it's spelled M-A-E. So I decided to use my middle name and spell Made, M-A-E-D, and then Between the Pages. Because a lot of who I am has been developed and created between the pages of books. And I think if I didn't have books in my life, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today or who I am today. So a good portion of me was made between the pages. Okay, so we have done another 5-ish questions, so it's time for our next snack. I'm just gonna pick a random one here. Maple syrup aji. So maple syrup flavored chips. This could go really well, or this could not go well. Wow, that seriously smells like I just opened up a bottle of maple syrup. Doesn't look very maple syrupy. Itadakimasu. Ah. Oops. Oh wow. That is sweet. But, wow, it kind of tastes like not just syrup, but syrup on a pancake. Like there's butter in there too. I'm impressed. These are really, really good. Again, I'll try to find them on Amazon or something and link them down below, but I'm going to be eating these a lot. Pardon me. I might forgive Hayato for the 2 other umeboshi treats. Maybe. The next 3 questions are from Sasha over at Well Read and Half Dead. Her first question is, what's been your favorite thing about starting a Booktube channel? So this one I did also kind of answer in part 1. But the main thing is I have loved being able to talk to people who just get it when it comes to books. I don't have to explain why I want to buy my 50th special edition of my favorite book. I don't have to explain why I'm unable to formulate words about a book that I love. I don't have to explain why not having half stars on Goodreads is the bane of my existence. People just get it. And this is the first time in my life where I've had that when it comes to books. So I've just really loved connecting with people. That's the main thing. Her second question was, what fictional Her second question was, what fictional character inspires you most? This is also a really good question. Okay, this one I think is gonna have to be Hermione from Harry Potter. When I was young, whenever I had to study for something, I would actually say to myself in my brain, because that's where you say stuff to yourself, Taylor. I would say to myself, okay, you just need to study really hard and you can become like Hermione. Like you can become the brightest witch of your age. I just Her third question was, if you could read a book again for the first time, what book would it be? Okay, I'm gonna skip the obvious answer of Harry Potter here. And I'm gonna go for another one. That book for me is actually going to be a manga called Fruits Basket. I love Fruits Basket, and it recently just got an anime revamp, so if you're into anime or would rather watch rather than read manga, check it out. It's a shoujo manga, and it's about a girl whose mother dies, and then she's staying with her grandfather. But through some circumstances, she can't stay with her grandfather for a while, so she ends up staying on the property of, like, camping, basically, on the property of some of her classmates. And then they find her camping there and offer for her to stay at their house. And then there's a family secret that she finds out, and it's got a magical element to it. But that was one of my favorite things growing up because of the life lessons I learned from that book. The amount of times I've cried and reread those books is just, it's a comfort read for me for sure. But if I could reread them again for the first time, I think that I would be able to pull new lessons from them at this point in my life. Does that make sense? Like, I think that the lessons are applicable to wherever you're at in your life. And because I read it earlier, those lessons were kind of applied to the issues I was going through at the time. But I think if I could reread it for the first time now, I could use those life lessons to help me through some stuff that's going on in my life currently. So I would really love if I could have the experience to reread that series. And if you haven't read it, please do. It's so good. These next two are from Sydney over at Sid Bookworm. And her first question is, what music do you listen to? I listen to all kinds of music. I know that's a typical answer, but truly I do. The only music that I really would never gravitate towards is country. The tone of most singers' voices in country music just grates on my ears. I can't do it. But besides that, I'll listen to almost anything. Recently, though, I've been really into J-pop, and I have been sharing a couple songs on Twitter. So if you're interested in some new music or some J-pop, I have been kind of putting those out there. Her second question was, do you prefer silence or music or ASMR while reading? I cannot read in silence. I hate 100% silence. It makes me so uncomfortable. I hate it. So 100% I prefer background noises, whether that be the TV in the background at a low volume, whatever. But I would say my perfect reading Zen mode is listening to rain or thunderstorm sounds. I guess you could call that ASMR in the background. Or I love like Harry Potter themed ASMR, like background noise or ambiance videos. So there's one that someone made for the Leaky Cauldron that I really enjoy. And I also love the sound of trains. So there's one for the Hogwarts Express that I also really enjoy putting in the background. So we finished another 5 questions. It's time for another snack. This time we're going to be doing this one. And there are 3 types in here. Again, like I said in video 1, if you can't open something in Japan, you're doing it wrong, because packaging here is easy peasy to open. Except for, clearly, these are trapped. Aha! This is not the packaging I expected. I guess I should have unwrapped it before this, huh? Such a good YouTuber. I have no idea what this is. So I'll try this one. Are these hard candies? I've never seen these before in my life. I have no idea what I'm getting into. Very Japanese though. Looks traditional. Oh! I could dig this. This is definitely more wagashi style. Wagashi is like traditional Japanese sweet style. Alright, here we go. The wrapper, I was trying to pull it off, but I actually think it's edible. So let's go for it. It's edible. So it's like mochi. Ooh. I like this. definitely more traditional Japanese flavor. So mochi is like a rice paste, and you can put flavor in it or you can just leave it plain. I think mochi ice cream is becoming popular in America, actually. So maybe you've seen it. It's like those little circular white things with the chewy outside. That's the mochi, and then inside ice cream. So it's like that outside stuff, but with flavor in it. And that was really, really good. And the wrapper on the outside is edible. So we'll try one more flavor, which is satsumaimo, which is sweet potato flavor. Now, I know that might sound weird, but in Japan, especially in the fall, sweet potato is a very, very popular flavor for ice cream, for candies, for all types of snacks. And I'm a big fan of it. So here it is. All right. Itadakimasu. Mmm. Yes. Mmm. That slaps. I'm gonna eat this whole packet today. Wow, that is good. Sweet potato caramel flavor. That's where it's at, man. Okay, let's do the last couple questions here. So the next two are from Sasha over at The Wild Sasha. And she said, when did you first move to Japan? So I answered this earlier in the video, but I came to Japan for this portion of my life when I was 23 years old, and I've been here for 4.5 to 5 years. The next one is my favorite food. This is so hard because I love food. I'm always eating or drinking something. I love food. So it depends on my mood. If I'm gonna go with like snackable food, like one food, not necessarily a meal, I'll have to say raspberries. I love raspberries. I can eat those until I make myself sick. It's a problem. So raspberries when it comes to an individual food. But when it comes to like a meal, so this isn't necessarily like a meal, but it's a style of food in Japan, and that's yakitori, which is like meat on a stick. It's been essentially meat skewers. And if it's done well, that is just, it's heaven to me. And I haven't been able to go out and eat yakitori since the quarantine has begun, and I really miss it. So I'm gonna have to say yakitori or tacos. I love tacos in an inordinate amount. And that's one thing that in Japan I really truly miss. The food here is phenomenal, so I'm not lacking for absolutely amazing, delicious food, but I miss me some tacos. These last two questions are from Storybooks. The first one she asked was, if you could only reread one book for the rest of your life, what would it be? Now for this one, I'm going to have to take an answer from part 1. Someone had asked me if I was on a deserted island, what book would I bring with me? This is going to be the same answer, and that is Harry Potter #4, The Goblet of Fire. My original copy of this book is in shambles, literal pieces. The spine is broken and the pages like stick in clumps together. So instead of just bringing the hardback, I just take out the section of the book that I'm on because I've reread it that many times. So I would want to have a book that I can jump into and enjoy the world no matter how many times I read it, and that is 110% The Goblet of Fire. I love that book so much with every piece of my heart. And the last question is, how Americanized are parts of Japan? And that's a really good question. So as I mentioned earlier, I live in Fukuoka, which is on the southernmost island of Kyushu. Where I live is very, very different from Tokyo or even Honshu in general, which is the main island. So Fukuoka is not Americanized at all. It's very Japanese. There are a lot of influences like fashion-wise and food-wise from Korea because Fukuoka, Kyushu is very close to Korea. So it's very often that people travel between those two countries. It's like less than a 2-hour like flight. And you can also take a ferry that's only a couple hours long. So people come over all the time from Korea. But I would say Americanized, almost not at all. Now, I have visited Tokyo and other areas on Honshu, and there are very Americanized sections of those cities. that are specifically targeted for foreigners. Also, a lot of Japanese people love Hawaii as a travel destination, so there's a lot of Hawaiian restaurants, which is of course American, but they have their own unique culture. There's a lot of Hawaiian restaurants that I've noticed, but there are quite a few American chains when it comes to restaurants or for shopping. But most of what I see is actually a really weird twist on American cultures. Like in Japan, Christmas was not a thing until recently. New Year's is the most important holiday for family, and it's very significant in their culture, but in recent years, Christmas has kind of become more popular commercially anyway, because of Western culture in America. And so people in Japan actually eat KFC chicken on Christmas. It's like the thing that everyone does. And they also eat vanilla cake with strawberries on top. It's called a Christmas cake. And they really think that this is from America. And what I think happened is KFC was super smart and saw a cultural gap that needed to be filled, because people in Japan don't eat turkey, they don't eat ham the way that Americans do. So KFC was like, they need a meal for Christmas, fried chicken. That's us. And so I think they just filled that hole. And now Japanese people order like $60 worth of Kentucky Fried Chicken on Christmas, and they eat it, and that's their Christmas meal. So it's like Americanized, but not. So there's a lot of that cultural changing and mixing that goes on, but I wouldn't say that Japan is overall super Americanized, especially not in Fukuoka. Okay guys, my battery's dying, so we're gonna eat this last snack really quickly. This looks delicious. I love peach flavored stuff. So he gave me this one as a gimme because he made me suffer earlier. So this is like a peach nectar flavored hard candy. Delicious, perfection. So guys, that is the end of my taste testing Q&A video, part 2. Thank you so much for watching, but for now, I'm gonna head out. じゃあね!